Alright everybody, today we're going to be reviewing Resident Evil 7 for the PlayStation 4. And holy crap, I literally just beat the game just now. So I'm now here going to talk about the game and tell you guys my thoughts on the game and what is my overall opinion about Resident Evil 7. So before we get started, I do want to let everybody know that there's going to be no gameplay for this video, mostly just because I don't like being spoiled by gameplay footage and trailers, especially a game like RE7. It's just one of those games that you shouldn't just watch videos about unless you played the game for yourself. So, before we get started with the review, I do want to say is that I am a huge Resident Evil fan. I pretty much played most of all of them. I played Resident Evil 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I even played Code Veronica. And there's other Resident Evil games I haven't played, like Outbreak series. I never played any of those, but I know my familiar with Resident Evil, so I played every single one of them. So I understand why people are so confused about Resident Evil 7, because ever since when they first showed Resident Evil 7 back at the E3 show, everyone had mixed feelings about Resident Evil 7 going into like a first-person view, and while many people were super excited for that they were going back to their horror roots, you know, everybody was kind of like, because of the first-person view mode, because it's sort of like the first time that Resident Evil has ever went to first person. However, this ain't the first time that Resident Evil has ever went to first person. There's been other games like from Resident Evil, like Code Veronica had like this Mercenaries where you can play the game in first person. There's even a Resident Evil game called Resident Evil Survivor that was in first person view, but it sucked. And there was Dead Aim that was in first person view, kinda, sorta. But this was the Resident Evil game that was full on first person view in a way, so. And yeah, so there were so many mixed feelings about that, and you know, a lot of people just were worried about Resident Evil 7. They don't know how it was going to tie into the story, and because from looking at the gameplay, it didn't look like it didn't involve with the story. So there was a lot of mixed debate about Resident Evil 7, but when the game finally came out about like a couple of days ago, I'm sort of late on this, and the reason why I've been late on this is just because I work, and I really wanted to beat this game as soon as possible so I can get this review out to give you guys my opinion. And if you're still not convinced that you don't want RE7, here's my full review without gameplay, anything else. So the gameplay starts off, you play as a character named Ethan, who his wife went missing, and her name is Mia. So you get a videotape like 3 years later, and you turn to find out that Mia was, I don't know, captured in a way. So in Louisiana, so Ethan goes to Louisiana to look for her, and he finds himself in a mansion, and that's where the shenanigans of the family goes down. And that's all I'm going to say for story-wise, because that's all you need to know how the story starts off. And Resident Evil 7, dude, I'll be straight up honest with you right now. It is aiming to be the best horror game for 2017. Without a doubt in my mind that it's aiming to be the best. And it has potential too. Seriously, it's that damn good of a game. And like, even if it wasn't like, you see, what they try to do is that, what Resident Evil 7 they try to do is try to make it classic as possible for the old fans for Resident Evil, and also give it to the new fans. So you see, Resident Evil 7 is for everybody. It's for the old crowd, it's for the new crowd, and that's what they're sort of aiming for. And there is a lot of references to the old Resident Evil games when you play RE7. A lot of references. I think my favorite references was Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. At one point in the game, you type in a code, sort of, and you hear the original like menu sound when it goes, don't. I can't make the sound, but it's a pretty badass sound, and I was so shocked that they took. But there were so many references to RE7, to the original Resident Evil games. It's pretty cool. However, though, that comes off with a kind of a flaw too, because while they took a lot of references from the old Resident Evil games, they stole some of the gameplay elements too. I don't want to spoil everything for the gameplay, but I do want to say is that at one point, you do get a shotgun, and they took the same element shotgun idea from the original Resident Evil 1, where you had to find a fake shotgun before you can get a real one. And it was cool seeing that puzzle again, but at the same time, though, it didn't have its own originality. So it didn't come up with its own thing, and RE7 kind of copies some gameplay from old Resident Evil games. Like the game is a mixture between Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 4, and what other fucking game? I want to say Nemesis, and a little bit of Nemesis. All three of those games, RE4, Nemesis, and Resident Evil 1. It's a combined game, all in one package. That's basically what RE7 is. And the gameplay is just great, honestly. And when it comes to gameplay, the game is smooth as hell. You know, I don't have a PlayStation Pro, but I'm going to just be honest with you. Even just on a regular, like, PlayStation, it looks great. The game feels amazing. The game is, like, 60 frames per second throughout the entire game, which is a big bonus for me. I love 60 frames per second. And I know there was a lot of mixed feelings about the first-person view, but I'll be the one to tell you right now is that I didn't really care about the first-person view. And the reason why I don't care is because I never played a lot of first-person view horror games. I like first-person shooting games, so I was okay with the idea of it. But I will understand that I know there was a lot of people who was frustrated because anyone who played PC, there was a lot of horror games that are in first-person view, which is why it was the biggest problem with this RE7 game. It was coming off to be like, oh, it's a copy of other horror game ideas. But for what Resident Evil 7 is for this first-person view, it's really good. Like, it plays really well. You know, I love my first-person shooting games, and I'm going to be honest with you, RE7 does that very well. The aim is great, the reload animations are awesome. I love the weapon reloadings, and you know, it's just a great system. And I would have liked it if they had like a fixed camera angle system, like the old Resident Evil games that they did. But they don't. It's in first person view, so that's why I say this game is for the newer audience too, because they don't have to deal with the BS of tank controls. Even though I would have liked the tank controls a lot in the game, but when it comes to gameplay, the gameplay plays pretty much like the old Resident Evil games, and that was the one thing I was shocked to play the game about. I really didn't think it was going to be like the original. I thought it was going to be like its own little horror thing, but they took a lot of elements from the old Resident Evil games. Like the item box system is back. Like, you can only carry a certain amount of items. Like in the beginning, you begin off with only like, what was it, 8 items, I think? Yeah, 8 items. But then you can find backpacks that carry more items, and I really like that. I really love that mechanic so much. I love the able that you can go up to your box, and they have the original save idea, but there's no ink ribbons this time, so you can't like save a multiple. So you can save all the time in the game, and the one thing too is that one of the negative things I will kind of say is that even though it was aimed to be a horror game, there was elements in the game. As a matter of fact, through like the middle part, towards the end of the game, it comes off as sort of like a little bit of action. There's a lot more action that goes on in the game, though, but it tries to aim to be a Resident Evil game at the same time for the original. I don't think it was a big con, though, but I would have liked it more horror elements to the game than a little action. But for what it is, it's really good, and it's not a big like deal, really. And you'll start noticing too, because in the beginning you only begin off with a pistol and a shotgun, and eventually you'll earn your way for more weapons. There is plenty of weapons in the game. Unfortunately, I didn't get every single weapon in the game. Matter of fact, I didn't even get the Magnum. I beat the game without the Magnum, and I was so scared without the Magnum. And the whole game is just great. There are some stealth elements into the game. There's more stealth elements in the beginning than there are in the end. As a matter of fact, you'll be more stealth in the beginning, and you lose that stealth elements later on in the game. And the family is just cool. I like the whole family. They're all interesting in their own way for boss fights and the atmosphere. And when the game does aim to be a horror game, it plays like a horror game. And you know, obviously nowadays it's hard to scare like me, in horror games, because I love my horror games. And I'm not gonna lie, I play Resident Evil on some goddamn headphones. I can't find my headphones right now. Oh, it's right here. I play on my Audio Technicas, and I'll be honest with you, I was scared throughout some parts of the game because it was just that creepy of a game. It really is a scary game when you get into it. And I have been jump scared a couple of times, and that's another thing too. There's a little too much cliche. The story is kind of a little cliche. You kind of notice some of the jump scares in the game, and you kind of know what sort of happens. And there's also different endings for the game too. I think only 2 different endings you can get. So that's one of the biggest flaws. Here is all the flaws in the game. One, it's a little too cliche. You know what's going to happen in the game, sort of. You know when the jump scares happen. That's one of the biggest flaws, I think, to the game. Is just that you know what's going to happen. The second problem I have with the game is, I don't know. It's just that perfect game. I'm trying to think of what are the other flaws that the game has. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but that's the biggest flaw. You kind of know what happens. A lot of cliche like horror like aspects, and the game does take movie references too. And like I said, RE7 just takes all these ideas from the game, and that's honestly its biggest flaw in RE7, really. But other than that, though, Resident Evil 7 is an absolutely great game. I definitely recommend it to the new audience, to the old audience. It's there for everybody. There's something there for everybody. And if you have not bought an RE7, and if you're super curious, I recommend going and get it. However, though, I will say one thing is that if you really want to get into the Resident Evil series, I don't think RE7 is the greatest one to start off with. I mean, it's great, don't get me wrong, but if you really want to know the behind the scenes of Resident Evil, you want to play the story and everything else, I would recommend you play the original, like the first one, the second one, the third one, and yeah, but if you want to play just a regular horror game, you'll enjoy RE7, and honestly, like I said, there's something there for everybody. Obviously, a lot of older fans might find RE7 like an average game, but I do like RE7. It's a great game. As a matter of fact, I like RE7 so much, I'm actually thinking about playing the game again over and over and get all the trophies for the game and get a platinum for it. That's how much I like the game. And so I think that's all I got to say. So my final review for the game is 9.5 out of 10. Like, it's that good of a game. If you're looking for a good horror game, RE7's out there. Definitely recommend trying it. See you guys.